Let me give you a warning. Trouble runs deeper than you think. What looks powerful on the surface can be hiding cracks no one dares to talk about. And when those cracks begin to spread, even giants can fall. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're exposing the kind of storm that can shake even the strongest throne. You see, the world only shows you the polished picture, the smiling faces, the loud speeches, the shining promises. But behind that stage, a different story is unfolding. A story of pressure building, of people growing restless, of promises starting to collapse under their own weight. This is not just about one mistake. It's about many forces all crashing together at the same time. What you'll hear in this video is not the usual talk. These are the hidden truths, the overlooked details, the things most won't say out loud. And here's why it matters to you. Because leadership is a mirror of life itself. When leaders face storms, they either adapt or collapse. The same rule applies to you, to me, to anyone who dares to stand tall. So stay with me until the end. You'll learn not only why this trouble runs deeper than expected, but also how the same lesson applies to your own journey. Pressure will come, tests will rise, and your survival will depend on how you respond when the world pushes back. Because in the end, the real story isn't about power, it's about character. Power grew around him like a fortress. Every policy, every decision, every campaign was crafted to reinforce that image. The media amplified his words, his supporters echoed them, and soon it felt as if nothing could stand in his way. His influence stretched beyond politics into culture, into conversations at dinner tables, into the way ordinary people define pride in progress. When he spoke, millions listened. When he promised, millions believed. Control didn't just rest in his hands, it seemed to flow through every corner of society. For years, the position looked untouchable. Opponents appeared weak, scattered, or too slow to challenge him. The machinery of power was so well oiled that it seemed impossible for anything to break through. He was not just a leader, he was a brand, a symbol larger than life. His rise made many believe that he had mastered the game of politics, that he had figured out the formula of keeping people loyal, hopeful, and silent at the same time. But strength is often an illusion. Behind the curtain of power, cracks always begin to form. At first, they are too small to notice. A few voices of dissent here and there, a promise not kept, a policy that doesn't work as expected. And then suddenly, they are impossible to ignore. The same people who once stood in admiration start asking hard questions. Whispers grow louder. Confidence begins to shake. This is what we see now, the hidden cracks breaking through the image of strength. They were not expected. They were not planned for. They reveal something no one thought possible, that the fortress might not be as indestructible as it appeared. The problems are not only on the outside. Yes, there is global pressure. Yes, there are critics and rivals waiting to strike. But the deeper trouble lies within, inside the system, inside the promises that were made but not delivered, inside the very foundation that once looked so solid. What once held the leader high is now becoming shaky ground. Every leader builds their power on three things: trust, performance, and control. When trust weakens, performance fails, or control slips, the cracks spread quickly. That's what makes this moment so dangerous. The trouble is not a single attack from the outside. It is a storm rising from within. A storm that no speech, no show of strength, no symbol of power can easily stop. The mask of certainty is slipping. The image of being unshakable is being tested. And once people see the cracks, they cannot unsee them. Once they feel the foundation shake, their loyalty weakens. Once they realize the leader is not untouchable, the story begins to change. Power is never as secure as it looks. Influence can vanish in an instant. Control can slip like sand through the fingers. And when cracks spread inside a system built on strength, the fall can come faster than anyone expects. The very thing that once made the leader seem invincible becomes the weight pulling him down. The stage that once celebrated his rise is now revealing the hidden fragility beneath his rule. People's voices are no longer silent. What once was whispered in small circles is now shouted in streets, on screens, and in public gatherings. The applause that once followed every announcement is being replaced with questions. People want answers. They want accountability. They want proof that the promises made to them were not just words. The more their voices rise, the more pressure builds. Leaders who once stood tall and unchallenged now find themselves surrounded by doubt. Protests are no longer rare events. They are becoming the pulse of the streets. Crowds gather not only to resist, but to be heard, to show that they are no longer afraid. Signs, chants, and demands fill the air with a message too loud to ignore. Each protest is a signal of dissatisfaction. Each question a reminder that trust is not permanent. The people who once believed are now demanding results. And when leaders fail to deliver, the crowd's patience turns into anger. Doubt spreads like wildfire. It begins with a few individuals losing faith, but soon entire groups question whether the leadership is serving them or itself. This doubt weakens the bond that once held society together. It creates fractures between the rulers and the ruled. The promise of a strong, united future now feels uncertain. Trust, once given freely, is slipping away. And without trust, power becomes fragile. Economic strain only deepens this crisis. The promise of growth was once the foundation of hope. Grand visions of development, jobs, and prosperity painted a future people wanted to believe in, but the reality tells a different story. Unemployment is rising. Young people struggle to find stable work. Families watch their expenses climb while their incomes remain the same. The cost of daily life, food, fuel, housing becomes a constant burden. Every rise in prices is another reminder of broken promises. The economy was supposed to be the crown jewel, the evidence of success. Instead, it has become a battlefield of frustration. When jobs are scarce and living costs rise, the weight of disappointment crushes even the strongest loyalty. People measure leadership not by words, but by their ability to put food on the table, to provide for their children, to give them hope for tomorrow. When those expectations are not met, frustration grows into resistance. Slow progress becomes impossible to hide. Delays in development projects, unfulfilled initiatives, and half-finished promises stand as visible proof of failure. Each delay chips away at the image of strength. Each unmet goal becomes another reason for the public to doubt. Leaders can speak of vision, but people live in reality, and reality is harsh when bills pile up and opportunities disappear. The combination of fading trust and economic strain is explosive. When people feel ignored and their pockets grow empty, they no longer stay silent. They march. They protest. They question everything. And each time they do, the pressure on leadership increases. No amount of speeches can silence hunger. No promise of tomorrow can erase the struggles of today. Patience is not endless. People will endure for a while, hoping things will improve. But eventually hope runs out. When money fails, when dreams stall, when daily life becomes heavier, the public turns. Their loyalty shifts to anger, their silence to noise. The once unshakable support begins to crumble. This is the true weight of public pressure and economic strain. It is not sudden. It builds slowly, quietly, until it erupts. It is not just about politics. It is about survival, dignity, and the right to live a better life. And once people decide they have been pushed too far, no wall of power can contain their voices. What was once applause now becomes a demand, and the demand is simple: deliver or step aside. The world is always watching, and in today's age, nothing remains hidden for long. Every decision, every policy, every conflict plays out not just at home but under the global spotlight. Allies who once offered unquestioned support are now cautious. Their handshakes come with hesitation, their promises with conditions. The smiles in public often mask quiet doubts behind closed doors. No leader, no matter how powerful, can escape the weight of international judgment. Critics beyond the borders are growing louder. International organizations, foreign governments, global media, they all play a role in shaping perception, and perception is everything. A leader may project strength within their own country, but if the world sees weakness, isolation soon follows. Trade agreements become harder. Diplomatic ties turn colder. Investment dries up. This is the hidden cost of global scrutiny. The stronger you appear, the harsher the world examines you. Power is never secure when the eyes of the world are fixed on you. Every move is analyzed, every misstep is magnified. Mistakes that might have been forgiven domestically are amplified on the global stage. And once the image of invincibility begins to crack internationally, it quickly seeps back home. Citizens start to wonder, if the world doubts, why should we believe? Allies stepping back sends a message louder than any protest. Confidence in leadership is no longer guaranteed. Inside the country, another storm brews. Political rivals who once seemed scattered now sense opportunity. Opposition forces are uniting. They recognize that a strong leader is most vulnerable when cracks begin to show. Their silence is breaking. Their hesitation is fading. They are finding courage to speak louder, to organize, to stand in places they once avoided. Rivals know that timing is everything, and weakness, even if small, is a door left open. New voices are rising from unexpected corners. Leaders from smaller parties, activists who once stood alone, even former allies, all begin to challenge the dominant figure. They speak the language of change, of accountability, of a future that no longer belongs to one man but to the people. Their words, once ignored, now find an audience. The more the ruling power struggles, the more attention these rising voices gain. The opposition does not need to win overnight. They only need to plant seeds of doubt, to show that alternative exists. Each crack in the ruling power's image becomes fuel for their cause. Each protest becomes proof that the people are ready for something different. Rivals smell weakness, and they are ready to use it. In politics, weakness is blood in the water, and rivals are sharks circling closer. What makes this moment even more dangerous is the combination of external and internal pressure. While the world questions the leader's decisions, domestic rivals amplify those doubts. They point to global hesitation as proof of failure. They turn international criticism into local ammunition, and in doing so, they strengthen their own credibility. For years, opposition voices may have seemed too weak, too divided, too irrelevant, but power shifts quickly when momentum changes. Once the people begin to listen, once they see that rivals are unafraid, the balance of power starts to tilt. What was once a single dominant voice is now challenged by a chorus of rising ones. Every great leader eventually faces this moment when the world doubts them and rivals sense an opening. It is a test of endurance, of adaptability, of resilience. The stage that once felt secure becomes unstable. The same spotlight that once celebrated achievements now exposes flaws. The same silence that once protected the leader now works against him, because silence is no longer fear, it is strategy. Rivals have waited, and now they are ready to strike. Unity was once the greatest strength, the force that held millions together under a single vision. But now that unity is shaking, lines are being drawn between communities, and the sense of belonging that once tied people together is giving way to suspicion and division. Religious, social, and cultural differences, which should have been celebrated as diversity, are turning into walls of separation. When people no longer see themselves as one, the very foundation of a nation begins to crack. The divisions are not small. They run deep into neighborhoods, workplaces, and even families. People begin to identify more with their group than with the country as a whole. Each group demands recognition, protection, and fairness, but when they feel ignored, bitterness grows. Instead of pulling together, society starts pulling apart. Leaders who once stood on the promise of unity now face the reality of disunity, and no amount of speeches can mend what daily experiences continue to divide. Cultural clashes add to the strain. Traditions, languages, and ways of life become points of conflict instead of pride. Instead of harmony, there is tension. Instead of understanding, there is mistrust. And when this happens, it doesn't matter how powerful a leader may be, because a divided nation cannot carry one figure for long. Strength comes from people moving in the same direction. Without that, leadership becomes a lonely throne, easily shaken by the weight of discord. At the same time, another force is at play: the media. Stories are spreading faster than ever before. In the past, leaders could control the narrative. They could decide what people saw, what people heard, and what people believed. But those days are gone. Social media has shifted power back into the hands of ordinary people. Every phone is a camera, every person is a reporter, every moment can be shared with the world in seconds. This shift changes everything. No longer can uncomfortable truths be hidden for long. No longer can mistakes be buried under silence. If something happens, it spreads. If someone speaks, it echoes. And with that echo comes influence. A single post, a single video, a single headline can create waves of reaction that reach millions. Leaders can no longer manage information. They are forced to react to it. But with this freedom comes chaos. Truth, lies, and exposure all mixed together. Not every story is accurate, but once it spreads, the damage is already done. People do not wait for facts. They react to feelings. Outrage spreads faster than clarity. Fear travels quicker than reassurance. And once people believe a story, even if it is half true, it becomes a permanent stain on the image of power. For a leader, this is a battlefield without rules. Supporters and critics clash online, each shaping the narrative in their favor. Every mistake is magnified. Every controversy is recycled. Every criticism is amplified until it seems larger than life. The media, especially social media, no longer just reports events, it creates them. And in this constant storm of information, even the strongest image can be torn apart. This is the age where perception often matters more than reality. A single damaging story can undo years of careful image building. A single viral clip can erase an entire speech of promises. Leaders cannot fight this with silence, because silence itself becomes suspicious. They cannot drown it out with propaganda, because the people now have their own platforms to speak louder. When unity is lost and media pressure is relentless, the ground beneath leadership becomes fragile. Divisions weaken the base, while stories erode the image. The two forces feed each other. A divided society shares more anger, and media amplifies that anger till it becomes impossible to ignore. This cycle creates pressure that no leader, no matter how powerful, can escape. What once was control has now turned into exposure, and exposure has no mercy. Every leader faces storms, It does not matter how powerful they appear, how loyal their supporters are, or how high they stand in the eyes of the world. Storms will come. The storms are the true test of leadership. They strip away the speeches, the celebrations, the applause, and reveal what a leader is really made of. Anyone can lead in times of peace, but only a few can survive when the winds turn violent. The real test is not in holding power when things are easy, but in adapting when everything becomes difficult. Leaders are measured not by the comfort of their victories, but by the discomfort of their struggles. How do they react when promises collide with reality? How do they respond when their own people begin to doubt them? How do they lead when silence no longer works and answers are demanded? Adaptability becomes the defining trait. Those who bend without breaking endure, while those who resist the storm are torn apart by it. This moment is the hardest test yet. The storm is larger, louder, and more dangerous than anything faced before. It is not just one challenge rising. It is many, all arriving at once. There is no single problem to solve, no single issue to silence. It is a flood, and it cannot be contained with the old methods of control. Strength alone is not enough. Authority alone is not enough. A leader must show resilience, flexibility, and vision all at once. Without these, even the strongest image begins to collapse. The deeper trouble lies in the collision of crises. The economy is under strain, with unemployment rising, prices climbing, and growth slowing. Society is divided, with religious, cultural, and social fractures weakening the unity of the nation. Politics is unstable, as rivals unite and opposition voices gain strength. And on top of all this, the image of power, the carefully crafted symbol of invincibility, is now under attack from both inside and outside forces. Each issue feeds the other, making the situation heavier with every passing day. An economic problem alone is difficult, but when combined with political rivals, it becomes a weapon. Social division alone is dangerous, but when combined with media pressure, it becomes explosive. Loss of trust alone is damaging, but when added to global scrutiny, it spreads doubt everywhere. This is not a storm with one center. It is a storm with many centers colliding together. That is what makes it so destructive. Every leader fears this moment. They can prepare for one challenge, but when all challenges rise at the same time, control begins to slip away. It feels like standing on a shaking bridge while waves crash from every direction. No matter where they turn, there's no safe ground to step on. Each decision risks backlash. Each silence risks suspicion. Each move risks collapse. This is the weight of deeper trouble. It does not strike once, it strikes everywhere at once. What makes it worse is that the image of power, once a shield, becomes a weakness. The higher a leader stands, the harder the fall looks when cracks appear. People who once saw perfection now see failure. The myth of invincibility breaks, and once it breaks, it cannot be repaired. That is why this test is so dangerous. Not only are the problems real, but the perception of weakness multiplies their impact. This is the hardest kind of leadership test, the kind that does not allow easy answers. It demands reinvention, humility, and vision. It requires not only the strength to face problems, but the wisdom to untangle them before they explode further. And in this moment, with the economy struggling, society dividing, politics heating, and image collapsing, the deeper trouble is clear. It is not one wave. It is a storm from every direction, hitting all at once, leaving no escape. The lesson for us is clear. We cannot place blind faith in leaders and expect them to carry us forever. Leaders are human, and humans fail. They rise, they stumble, they break under the same weight that tests us all. If we hand over all our hope to a single figure, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. Real strength does not come from what someone else promises. Real strength comes from what you build inside your own life. It is easy to look at powerful figures and believe that they hold the key to your future. They speak with authority, they stand tall, they project confidence. But the truth is, their power is temporary, their control fragile, and their image often an illusion. If your happiness depends on them, then your happiness will collapse the moment they fall. That is why you must learn to create your own foundation. Build discipline, build courage, build independence. These are the things that cannot be shaken by political storms or economic struggles. When you rely on yourself, you cannot be controlled. When you develop your skills, your mindset, and your resilience, you carry power that no leader can take away from you. Real power is not given, it is earned. It is built in silence, in effort, in choices made daily when no one is watching. This is the kind of strength that lasts. This is the kind of power that protects you when everything else falls apart. Life itself will test you, just as it is testing those who stand in positions of authority. It will send storms your way. It will shake your plans. It will challenge your patience, and it will expose your weaknesses. That is not something to fear. That is something to prepare for, because pressure does not just destroy. Pressure also reveals. It shows you who you really are when everything comfortable is stripped away. If you bend and break under that pressure, you lose. But if you adapt, if you stay calm, if you turn the struggle into strength, then you rise higher than before. Your survival depends not on avoiding the storm, but on facing it and learning how to move within it. That is what separates those who succeed from those who collapse. The difference is not in talent, not in luck, but in adaptability. Think about it. Every challenge you have faced so far has left you with two options: stay the same or grow stronger. Each time you chose growth, you built power that no one could see but you could feel. That power is your real security. That power is what will carry you forward when promises fail and systems fall apart. Leaders may disappoint, but your personal strength will never betray you. Conclusion. Mr. Modi is in much deeper trouble than expected. The cracks are no longer hidden. The pressure is no longer silent. What once looked like unshakable power is now being tested from every direction. And that's the warning. No matter how strong someone appears, no matter how untouchable they seem, when the foundation weakens, collapse can follow. The broader lesson here is simple but powerful. Even the strongest can fall if they forget the basics: truth, unity, and service. Leadership without these values becomes a burden, not a blessing. And just like Modi faces his test today, life will test each one of us. What matters is how we stand, how we adapt, and how we stay true to what really matters. If this message inspired you, like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful motivation.